What's going, guys? Just got back from the Chicago Marathon and boy was it a great time. I feel like I finally figured out how to run a marathon. They always say third time's the charm, and that's exactly what happened here. My first two races, if you're new to this channel, they went solid. I ran solid times. My first ever marathon was the Greater St. Louis Marathon in St. Louis, Missouri. I ran that in a time of 2:50. I was feeling real solid for about 20 miles of that race and just completely imploded for the last 6 miles. I was cramping, I had to walk. It was just like the worst time. I was lucky enough to be able to drag my way to the line and still be under the Boston qualifying time. And that's what took me to my second marathon, being the Boston Marathon. And Boston was a great time as well, but I had the same problem. I was still dying the last 6 miles of the race, and this one was even worse than the first one. Like, I think I dropped to about 9-minute pace. I had to walk a vast majority of the last 6 miles. And after that one, I left feeling okay. It was about the same vibe as my first marathon. I went 2:52, and I feel like the course was a little bit hillier than the St. Louis one. And you know, I was just kind of riding off the high of the vibe. Like, it was my dream to run Boston, so I was kind of more so soaking in that than like the utter defeat of not crossing the line with like a smile on my face. But the atmosphere was insane. It was crazy, and I definitely enjoyed it. But fast forward to Chicago Marathon, I ran this one and I felt completely amazing. There were points in the race where I was like waiting to die, like just waiting for my legs to cramp like they did in the other two marathons, and that just didn't happen at all. I was definitely way more prepared, fueled a lot better, and I got through the line and just felt great. Crazy enough, my last mile was my fastest mile in the entire race because I felt so good, and I was holding back for so long because I just didn't want to go into that pain cave, cramp cave, like all that stuff that I had to deal with the first two marathons. So it was a good feeling crossing the line, knowing that I could have ran even faster, and I had already managed to PR by about 15 minutes, which was absolutely insane. Granted, Chicago's course is a lot flatter. It's like one of the fastest courses. It is, I think, the fastest course. The world record is held on there. I just felt way better. If I would have had the same level of preparation that I did for this race at my other races, I think they would have went like way better as well. So yeah, in this video I want to talk about the things that I changed from my first two marathons to get me to such a huge PR on my third marathon. So let's get into it. Number one, the biggest one, I increased my mileage, and I gradually increased my mileage. So for the first two marathons, I was working a lot at the time. I was doing a labor extensive job, and I didn't have much time or even energy to get a lot of miles in. So I was probably averaging at the peak 45 to 50 miles per week. That's just for like the peak weeks. So about 3 weeks I did that. But all the other weeks leading up to the training, or all the other weeks in the training block, I was probably more so like a 35 mile per week guy. Those training blocks were 3 to 4 months. So 3 to 4 months of 35 to 50 miles a week was all I was doing. This training block, I trained for 4 months and I averaged about 60 miles per week. So that's, you know, roughly double than what I was doing. And I peaked at about 77, I think was my highest week. So still not like crazy mileage that you see a lot of marathoners running, like the hundreds, the 120s, but still a decent amount and a huge jump from where I first started. And I think that alone was a huge reason as to why I was just more prepared and felt a lot better running the race. Because obviously you're running 26 miles, you need a lot of miles to prepare for that. You need some training runs in there that are close to the same mileage of the race, and I just didn't have that the first two training blocks. I think the farthest I ran for a training run was about 17-18 miles for those first two marathons. And this training block, I did multiple 18-mile runs. Then I had a 20-mile run and a 22-mile run, I think. And yeah, I think those really prepared me. All right, second is fueling. So the first two marathons, I definitely had a fuel plan, but I didn't really execute it that much in the race. I know for St. Louis, I was using Morton gels, which are very good. But I was having a hard time getting enough water at the water stations. So that probably played a part in me cramping up, I'm sure. But yeah, I didn't really have like a perfect game plan on when to take the gels. I was kind of taking them at random, just whenever I felt like was a good time to take them. So yeah, that probably messed me up on the first marathon. And then Boston came around and I was definitely a lot more solid on my gel intake. But again, I was having a hard time like getting enough water at the water stations. Like grabbing the cups just wasn't like going for me. But Chicago Marathon, I had a strict game plan. I took a gel every 20 minutes. I carbo loaded a lot beforehand. And instead of relying on getting enough water at the water cups, I just carried a handheld water bottle and I made sure to put salt tablets in it so I could replenish my electrolytes along the way. Because like I said, the first 2 marathons I was cramping, and that could have been because of my fueling. That could have also been because of the lack of mileage that I was doing. But I just didn't want to leave anything on the table, and I was getting about 30 grams of carbs like every 20 minutes. And I feel like that was a game changer. I didn't have to stop and worry about the craziness of grabbing the cups. And when I got towards the later part of the races, I would grab the cups and just throw it on me, just to kind of like cool my body down. So the cup stations just became like the cool off station. I just grab a cup, throw it on my neck, throw it on my face, and just kind of use the water in that way. And then I had my bottle that lasted me the whole race, and I had my gels. So number 3 is executing the game plan. I feel like this marathon preparation, I really honed in on my game plan and I stayed regimented to that game plan. I told myself that I would go out at a certain pace. I stayed on that pace no matter how I felt. Whether I felt better or felt faster, I was just gonna stay in this zone. And I did that, executed it perfectly. And then I had points where I knew the race was gonna get hard, and I told myself, all right, for this block of miles, I can go a little bit slower and try to conserve energy, because in all my training, that block of miles made or broke my training session. So I knew that like around miles 16 to 18, that I was gonna be feeling bad, because all of my training, miles 16 to 18, was really hard. So I told myself I can ease up on those miles. And then I always end up rallying right after that or right before. So those are the miles I can go a little bit faster on. And I was able to accumulate that data and that wherewithal of how my body reacts under that running stress, and was able to apply that to the race. So when you're training, just make sure you clock your strengths and weaknesses. Make sure you clock how your body feels at certain mileage. Like I noticed that most of my runs, I don't feel good until I'm at like mile 6. And then from mile 6 to 10, I feel absolutely amazing. I have tons of energy. And that's like the time where I can push. And then from miles like 10 to 13, my body likes to shut down a little bit. It likes to just go on this little chill mode. And then those are times where I got to be mentally tough. So just like finding all those little nuanced things about yourself in training. Like training isn't just about the paces you're hitting. It's about becoming one with your body, understanding your body, what your body needs, and accommodating that. Sure, there are a lot of things you can change with training, but sometimes your body just does what your body wants to do. And if you pick up on those things, they can really give you insight on how you can maximize yourself. All right, number 4, fighting the doubt demons. Now, this one is more metaphoric, I guess, but it is so true, at least for my journey. So those of you who have ran in a marathon or just ran in any race or done anything hard, the first thing that gives out is your mind. The mind and the body are 2 separate beings. Your body can last way longer than your mind can. And all you got to do is try to break through as soon as those first couple of doubts come in. As soon as that first voice in your head that tells you to stop and quit comes, you got to be ready to fight that off. Because if you don't fight that one off, there's going to be a bunch more that come, and there's going to be tons of excuses that are going to get in the way of whatever goal you're trying to accomplish. And I made sure that this time, that when those doubts came in, I was ready to attack the first one head first. And how I did that was, again, just the training. Like, you want to train how you race. So I would meditate before big runs. I would make sure to meditate, stretch. I took a lot of like Epsom salt baths and just sat, worked on breathing just to get my mind right. Watching a lot of inspirational videos on running. I watched past years Chicago marathons just to kind of get my mind in that zone. You have to prepare for war, man. You just got to prepare for war. You got to be mentally there. And you can be physically there all the time, but if your mental is not there, then the physical doesn't matter at all. So you definitely want to work on your mental fortitude, having a positive attitude. I remember there was this point in the race where they had like a big sign that said smile and a bunch of camera people, and it was like mile 16. I was starting to feel it a little bit, and I remember listening to this podcast. I think it was The Running Effect maybe, and one athlete on there was talking about how studies show that if you smile while doing hard things, you know, it kind of helps your mind get past the pain of it all. And it's actually like beneficial for people to just kind of fake a smile when they're doing something hard like a marathon. And I thought about that in that moment, and I smiled for the camera. It honestly gave me like a boost. Like, it like made me remember like why I was there, like all the hard work that I'm there, how much I love running. And yeah, just remember to smile through the pain, because you opted into the pain. You put in the work to endure the pain, and pain is just a part of the journey. It's part of the fun. You wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't hard. Like, no one wants to do something that's extremely easy. People want a challenge. People like us, people like me and you that are out there running and grinding, we want a challenge. Like, I want to shoot for goals that I have not attained. And in order to get to those things, you got to have a little bit of pain. You got to have a little bit of transformative stress to build yourself better, to build yourself stronger. So just remember that, like, when the pain starts setting in, don't take it as a sign of your weakness. Take it as a sign of your strength. Take it as a sign of, I'm getting better in this moment. Take it as a sign of, this is what I signed up for. I signed up to overcome this pain. I signed up to transform myself and to transcend into something greater than I was before. And the pain is just the door that will get me there. It is not the wall that's going to stop me. It's the obstacle that you're going to climb. So yeah, I just had a whole reframing of pain and a whole reframing of just like how I view the mind's kind of natural doubt, and how to like quickly switch that. Like, as soon as it comes in, I know exactly how to turn it off. And that comes with, for me, it comes with just getting overly motivated, remembering why I'm doing things, having gratitude, thinking of my family, thinking of my friends, thinking of the miles that I put in, and just thinking of how grateful I am to even be in the position to feel pain. And yeah. All right, number 5 is having the right gear. This one's a sleeper. So I was real meticulous on what I wore for race day, because my first marathon, I was wearing shoes that were too small, and that was my fault. And I just got the craziest blisters, and I could feel them from like mile 10 on. The shoes just completely destroyed my feet. I also didn't have on the right socks. I wore these socks that I used to race in high school that were really good for like 5K races. But for marathons, they were just a little too thin, I guess, for my liking. And my feet just got completely wrecked from those. Boston, I had better shoes, but still the socks were a problem, and I got blisters, and yeah, it just was not a good time. And then for this race, I made sure to do like extensive research on like the type of socks that I was wearing, and I made sure to put band-aids on my nipples because those were bleeding. At Boston, I didn't have any band-aids, and yeah, I just honed in on all that stuff. I knew where my blisters were prone to getting, so I made sure to put a little extra like ointment on those. I bandaged them up beforehand. I did extensive research to find socks that were non-blistering, and I trained in a lot of different socks and found the perfect pair for me. and I came out of the marathon with no blisters, no pain anywhere whatsoever. Like, I came out unscathed. That's just because I put in the time and the effort to make sure I got that stuff dialed in. Number 6, I'm gonna combine them because they kind of go hand in hand, but that's sleep and eat. This training block, I made sure to get as many rest days as possible while still hitting my mile goals. So I was sleeping a ton. I was making sure that if I felt any type of pain or soreness, that I would just take a day off to rehab that, because I really didn't want to. I was just trying to make sure I got to the line healthy. I hate when I go into races, go into training blocks, and the last week I just feel like absolute crap because I just been dogging my way through all these workouts. So this time I really took recovery extremely serious. I ate a ton of food, and that was something I didn't really do the first training blocks because I was so worried about being light to run a marathon. Like my first marathon, I kept talking about, I want to get to this certain weight, I want to get to this certain weight. And I would compromise like certain meals just to try to get to that weight. And even though weight is an aspect of like running fast, like if you are lighter and leaner, you will probably run a lot faster, but that's if you don't compromise your overall strength and your health completely. You want to worry about your weight last and worry about your overall health and how you feel and your strength first. So eat when you're hungry. Definitely eat and replenish your calories after and before you run. Make sure you're getting the proper fueling. I was eating a ton of food during this training block because I just inherited that new philosophy. I was making sure after every run, after every workout, I was getting a lot of protein and a lot of carbs, especially before big sessions. I would have a ton of carbs, a lot of pasta, a lot of fish, a lot of chicken, a lot of steak, a lot of greens, just a lot of everything. And I'm not a nutritionist, and I'm also kind of like new to, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say like, I also don't like track my food or track my calories. I just kind of go with the flow. I eat when I'm hungry, and I try to eat significantly more when I do hard workouts to replenish like my proteins, my electrolytes, and my carbs. So, you know, I don't have the perfect game plan, but I know I felt a lot better during this training block, and I probably was the heaviest out of the 3 marathons, and I felt fast, I felt lean, I felt strong. I didn't feel depleted whatsoever. And I think that's great advice for somebody to take is don't worry about your weight. If you're out there grinding, you're getting in the miles, you're hitting the paces that you want to hit, and you're feeling your body properly, just go with wherever that weight falls. We shouldn't be out here like trying to hit these weight goals if they don't make sense for what our body needs. Like your body doesn't need to be this certain weight. Your body just needs to be healthy. So whatever the healthy weight distribution is for your specific anatomy, that's where you should be at. And maybe you go to a nutritionist, maybe you go to a doctor to pinpoint that like perfect level. But I think it will go a long way if you just eat good food and you eat it when you're hungry and you eat more when you do hard work. I just think that's a good like regimen to follow for anybody who doesn't want to get like super technical with it like me. And yeah, don't be scared of food, because food is what you need. You need carbohydrates, you need protein. You don't need to be skinny. You need to be fueled, you need to be ready to go, you need to be strong. So just take that into account if you're out there training and you're just worrying about those things a little too much. All right, that about does it. I feel like those things were the top things that helped me PR in the marathon, made me feel like I can actually run marathons, because boy, after those first 2, I was struggling with the thought of having to run more. And I'm glad I gave myself the opportunity to train a little bit better, to be a little bit smarter, and to get me through the line for the Chicago Marathon. And yeah, hopefully you guys found something of value here and you can bring it to your own training. And I wish you the best of luck, happy PRs, and yeah, as always, stop doubting yourself. Let's get it.